vehicles lined up going to Loliondo. I said, this is it. This is what I have been looking for. Hi, this is Doreen, and this is my story. Hi, my name is Doreen Moraa Moracha. I am a young woman living with HIV. I'm the founder of I Am a Beautiful Story, which is a HIV and AIDS initiative meant to create awareness, to give a face to people living with HIV, and also to give hope that there is a life, a beautiful life after a HIV positive diagnosis. I have a desk job where I work as a customer service associate, and I'm also involved in a few HIV and AIDS boards. Recently I was selected to be a member of the International AIDS Society, and I'm also part of a new initiative. It's a new advocacy initiative called Living Beyond Life Force. It's a partnership initiative with GNP+, which is the Global Network of People Living with HIV, ICW, which is the International Community of Women Living with HIV, and Y+, which is the Young People's Organization. I don't know the whole meaning of Y+, just know it deals with young people living with HIV globally. I'm also part of the Beijing +25 Youth Task Force, which is where I am a member. I represent the HIV constituency, and in the Beijing +25 Youth Task Force, we deal with the issues of gender equality and women empowerment, we have been brought together by UN Women. And apart from that, nationally, I sit in the Meaningful Engagement of People Living with HIV and AIDS Working Group. In short, it's the MIPA Working Group, and the Condom Working Group, and yeah, I think those are the things that I'm involved with in the HIV world. And I am just a young woman who is trying to inspire the world and trying to make a change and trying to tell people that we should end HIV and AIDS stigma, and we should see people living with HIV as human beings apart from only living with HIV, because HIV is just a health condition. So I was born with HIV. That is now my inspiring story is I was born with HIV almost 28 years ago. I say almost because in August I will be turning 28, so it's almost 28 years ago. My parents are a HIV discordant couple, whereby my dad is HIV negative and my mom is HIV positive. I have 3 siblings who are alive. One of them died. He was also born with HIV like me, but the other 3 are HIV negative. So the only living sibling who is HIV positive is me. I was told about my HIV status when I was 13, but my parents knew about my HIV status when I was 8 years old. But like from year 0 to year 8, I was just a sickly child, and nobody knew what was ailing me. So when I was 8 years old, I had an infection called herpes zoster. It affected my left eye, and that is when I was taken to Kenyatta National Hospital. And after so many tests, the doctors suggested that I take a HIV test. And after the HIV test, then I tested positive. So my parents they were asked to also confirm the HIV status, of which they did confirm, and that is when they found out that one of them is positive, the other one is negative. My dad at that time, okay, I don't know how my dad reacted. I really can't tell because I was 8 years old. Age 8 to age 13, I was still not on medication. So I spent a whole 13 years without medication, because when I was diagnosed, I was not put under any medication. I was given Septrin. I was linked up to Nyumbani Children's Home, because it was the only children's home dealing with children living with HIV at that moment. And they used to give me supplements, they used to give me the Septrin, they used to check up on my health just to confirm how I was doing. So the doctors did not give my parents hope that I would live to see my 28th birthday. They were more of, if she reaches 12 years old, then that is a plus. But for now, we really can't give you that much hope. So that is actually how my mom ended up baptizing me at the age of 8. When I left hospital, I was baptized because my mom believed 100% I was not going to make it. So later on, in 2005, my mom became very ill. She went into a coma because now her viral load had really gone up, and I think she had reached the AIDS stage, because there is HIV, which is the virus, and AIDS, which is the disease. So a lot of people, you can reach AIDS and then it reverses back to the virus, but then not all the time. It doesn't happen every time, but most people are living with HIV and not AIDS. So my mom was very, very ill. In fact, a lot of people thought she was not going to make it. But she finally got out of hospital. She came home. We were happy that she is well. And there were rumors in the village, people saying she's HIV positive, she's not going to die, just give her a few days and all that. So after a while, when she had fully recovered, she told me, how about I want to take you to hospital? For me, going to hospital was already something I was used to. So it wasn't a big deal. So we went to Kericho now it's level 5. During those time, it was Kericho District Hospital. I was tested. Of course, again, I was told, you're living with HIV and you got it from your mom, and you're going to take a special set of medication called ARVs for the rest of your life. So when the doctor told me that, at that particular moment, it didn't make me sad. A lot of people say they were broken, they felt sad, they felt heartbroken. But for me, I didn't. Because I don't know whether it was my 13-year-old self reasoning, but what I thought was, it made me happy, because I knew that at the end of, at every month when I had an appointment, my mom would take me, buy me chipo, kuku, soda. That made me happy, very happy in fact. Also, I was very sure that there is a day every month that I was going to miss school legally, which is also another good thing. And I was tired of taking Septrin. In fact, I think that was my biggest motivator. I was so tired of taking the Septrin, because the Septrin pill is very big. And if you don't take it with enough water, it has its own complications. So I never used to like Septrin. From the very first time I was put on Septrin, I never liked them. So when I was told I was being given ARVs, yes, we were taking like 5 or 6 pills a day, but when I looked, they were small pills. So to me, that was way better. And some of them were so colorful. So they really, honestly, they were like, I just looked at them and was, I'm fine. I'm going to take that medication. When I did my class 8, now the following year I was supposed to go to Form 1. And that is where I got the first challenge, because my mom refused to let me go to a boarding school. So all the boarding schools that I was called to, I didn't go. I went to a local day school, because her argument made sense. She was like, if you go to a boarding school, you're not going to get good food, and we all know the nutrition in boarding schools in our country. Also, you're not going to, you will have to have a challenge with taking your medication. So I said, okay, fine, then I'm going to a boarding school. When I transferred to a different day school, and during that time, it was during the 2007 elections. And so the post-election violence happened, and because we used to live in a border town, so there was chaos in between, so we had to relocate. So then my mom asked for a transfer to Machakos, so that is where we ended up. But there were no day schools in Machakos. There were only boarding schools. The day schools were in fact far away than the boarding schools. So she decided to take me to a boarding school that was literally across the road. So the only thing she had to do was just cross the road, get into our school compound. And I went there, started again, afresh Form 2 again, which is something I never liked, but then that was the option they gave us because they did not agree to let me go to Form 3. So I went to boarding school, spent another 3 years. Now the problem with boarding school was, first of all, if you're living with any health condition, you had to tell the matron. Second of all, if you have medication, the matron was the one who was supposed to be in charge of the medication, and after that, they were the one supposed to administer the medication to you every time when it's your time to take medication. So the only hindrance to this was I had to tell her I have HIV, which when I was told about my HIV status, I was told, don't tell anyone you're living with HIV. So I was in a dilemma. How am I supposed to tell this person I'm living with HIV and at the same time give them my medication? And I was told not to tell anybody. So what I did was I decided to hide the medication. We came up with a plan. First of all, my doctors had to give me appointments only when I'm on holiday, on school holiday. Secondly, I had my parents had to sneak in the medication for me. So when we open school, they take me, find an excuse, they're going to see the principal, the bazaar or someone, and then they will sneak in the medication for me because we used to be inspected before getting into school, which means that if I'm found with medication, I'd had to explain what the medication was for. So after that, in fact, that is how I lived for the 3 years I was in school. That is how I lived. Nobody knew I had a health condition. And the people who knew, I had lied to them. I had told them I have a heart condition. The first challenge I had was when I went to find a college. So I went to my dream was to become an air hostess. So I went to a school, very reputable school in Advocacy. I talked to that lady. She was like, okay, according to your qualifications, you're qualified, everything checks out, but you have a scar on your face. The scar was caused by herpes zoster, so that is not really something I could control. So she told me, because of the scar, we can't really make you an air hostess. Maybe a ground hostess or something of ticketing, something of that sort, but definitely not the air. So I was so mad at that lady. I looked at her and I was like, there is no way I'm letting these people to control me. But at that point, I felt that it's like HIV had started limiting me. So I went to the second, I decided to drop the air hostess thing and now go to journalism. I really wanted to become now a radio presenter because those were my two options. So I went to a relative of mine. So he looked at me, he listened. I explained and all that. He listened and then he told me, unfortunately, I cannot really let you become a radio presenter. So I asked him why. And he was like, because if you become a radio presenter, then people are going to know you. If people know you, then it means people are going to know your status. And that is not a good thing because that may bring about stigma. While I was home, it's like the universe was also speaking to me. Because I think 2 or 3 days later, then I see Babu Loliondo on TV. Vehicles lined up going to Loliondo. I said, this is it. This is what I have been looking for. So I went and told my mom, kuna dawa. There is a cure for HIV. Now we will get cured. We will stop taking medication. We are finally free. So, my mom was convinced. We went all the way to Loliondo. We drank the cup. So you see, before we left Nairobi in the morning. We reached Loliondo at around 7-ish in the evening. And then we queued like the rest of the vehicles. There was a long queue, a very long queue. So after the whole queuing in the morning, now we woke up because we slept in. Loliondo was a village. It was a village in the middle of nowhere. So it's not as if there are hotels or places you're going to sleep. The only available places to sleep were tents. if you don't have the option of a tent, you sleep in your car. So we slept in our car. So in the morning we woke up, we went to Babu's compound. Babu was like, thank you for coming. Mimi sina dawa, lakini imani yenu ndio dawa. So we had faith. We had a lot of faith. Like our faith was at like 1,000%. So finally he talked to us. He told us the whole cup is 100 Kenya shillings. So after we drink our cup, we give him the 100 Kenya shillings, we go back home. So we went back to our vehicles, of course, drank. The cups were being brought by, he had some helps. So those people used to come with the trays full of the cups, then you'd all drink. It's just a small cup. You drink it's a colorless, no, it wasn't colorless, so it's brownish, but tasteless liquid. So we just drank the herbs, paid our 100 shillings, came back home. So when we came back home, of course we stopped taking medication because we are healed. But my mom went to confirm, 3 months later, she went to confirm whether we are now HIV negative. She was positive. So she came back home and told me, the way I've been tested and I'm positive, I think it's time we just go back and take our medication. So I told her, Miss Rodi, I'm not going back to medication. Let us give it a little bit of time. So we gave it a little bit of time. During this time, I will go to hospital, get my medication, and I will not take it. So there is the tests that are vital while you are living with HIV. So I took, so this test called the viral load is meant to confirm the amount of virus in your blood. So I took my viral load. The first viral load came back at 70,000 copies. It's supposed to be below 1,000 for anybody taking medication. So 70,000 means you're not on medication at all. So they even suggested, because there are 2 types of treatment in the country. We have first line and second line. So I was on first line, I'm still on first line, but they told me that if probably first line was failing, and of course with HIV medication at some point it does fail. So they told me if the medication was failing, then I had to go and I had to be taken to second line. By that time the second line regimen was very harsh. So I was told, how about you take your medication. So I was told that I'll be taken for second line. I did not want second line. So I stopped going to hospital and stopped the medication altogether. And 2 years I was ARV free. I was not taking medication. I was just there, not going to hospital. And I was not, in fact, my health was okay. I can't really say that I was sick. I can't say that I had any issues. I was just fine. Until one night I went to sleep, and in the morning I woke up with a swollen mouth. I had a fever, and so I had to be rushed to hospital. So when I reached hospital, Machakos level 5, I was told I had pneumonia. It had gotten into my lungs. And so the doctor started, why did you stop taking medication? Why are you like this? My viral load at that point was 200,000 copies. So he asked me what happened. So I was like, nothing really, nothing. I didn't have an answer to that question, because when you are told you're taking medication for the rest of your life, they don't really tell you how long the rest of your life is, because right now in 2020 it's 15 years since I started medication, and so far it's not yet the rest of my life. So imagine how long the rest of someone's life is. And when they tell you, they don't tell you that at some point you'll get tired, at some point you will want to stop taking this medication. You really need this medication, yes, but it is overwhelming. Finally, I just decided that at the end of the day, this is my health. And if I need to make it out alive, then I need to start taking my medication. How would you feel if you came out and talked to people, showed them that a HIV diagnosis is not a death sentence, encouraged them that on why it's important to know your HIV status? So I was like, hey, this lady. Like at the back of my mind, I was just like, no, I can't do this. Because remember when I was tested and diagnosed officially, I was told not to tell anyone that I'm living with HIV. So at that particular moment, it felt like she was asking me to do something I had not been prepared to do. So later on, I decided, how about I just write, because she had tasked me to write the story and send it to her. So I started writing. I wrote the first time, it was not working. The second time, I was like, no, I can't do this. You know, I don't have a problem with living with HIV and taking my medication and living a silent life. So later, I think like 2 weeks after that, I saw this article on Daily Nation. So I wrote to the editor, but I wrote to the editor as a joke, because I did not really mean that I wanted her to share my story. When I was sending her that email, at the back of my mind, I thought she would not reply, and I also thought, it's just, let's see what happens. So when I got home, I found her reply, and she's like, I just read your story, it's so incredible, I want us to do an interview. So finally, I went, we did the interview, and it's now been 5 years since I started talking publicly about my HIV status. The worst moments, or my lowest moments as a person living with HIV, have to be when I stopped taking my medication, because at that moment I had really given up, and I did not see any use of being alive. I just felt that I was done living a life with HIV, and until when now I reached that point of accepting myself and looking at HIV as something that was so tiny, but I was the one who was giving it a lot of power in my life. Another, I think, not really worst moment, but just a moment that was not so good, was when I disclosed to someone about my HIV status who was interested in dating me, but he did not believe I'm HIV positive, because for some strange reason, most people don't believe that I'm living with HIV. They kind of think it's a story I created, or it's something I'm doing that, I don't know, to get fame, to get the popularity. For some strange reason, I don't know why Kenyans seem to think like that. But so the same way, when I disclosed, he was like, no, there's no way you can be HIV positive. So later on, I challenged him and told him, how about we just get tested? So we got tested. Definitely my status was positive, his was negative, and we were, I think, at some place in Ngong Road. So coming all the way from Ngong Road to town, it was total quiet in that car. He was extremely silent. So when we reached, we did not even reach town, because I think he dropped me like somewhere between Upper Hill and that stretch of Upper Hill. So he's like, I need to rush to the office, we shall talk, we shall catch up later, and that is how it was gone. So, okay, I didn't feel like really bad because he had gone. I just felt bad that he did not really understand the whole aspect of living with HIV, and the fact that he never believed the first time I told him that I am living with HIV. So, yeah, maybe probably those ones. And I can't really say the social media trolls make me feel bad, because they say social media trolls are like in-laws who have never met you and think that they know you, and they don't. So I get trolled a lot every day. I think probably every day there is somebody I'm blocking across all my social media handles. But then it is what it is. HIV is a very tiny virus. You are its host. It is your guest. Don't give it power over your life, because we tend to give it too much power. It invites opportunistic infections, it invites self-stigma, it invites societal stigma, and then you end up feeling that you are not worthy of living. There is nothing wrong with you being HIV positive, because at the end of the day, HIV is a disease for human beings. So accept yourself, look at yourself in the mirror and tell yourself you are greater than HIV, and believe that, and let nobody or nothing stop you from achieving whatever you want. You can live a full life, you can have a career that you ever wanted, you can get married, you can have HIV negative children. There is nothing that stops you. So stop looking at HIV as the barrier or the big enemy in your life. Do not let HIV define you, but instead define it. There are also people who get very bitter, which is actually part of the process, because if you're living with HIV, there is the bitterness, the denial, the part where you want to revenge on everybody who ever infected you. But that, even if you revenge and you say now you are infecting people, some of the people you might infect, I'm saying might because some of them might not get infected. So some of the people you might infect might end up taking the ARVs and moving on with life. And the person who will be left with the bitterness is you. So don't let it consume you that much. Cry if you have to, shout if you have to, scream if you have to. But after you are done, don't go back to doing the same exact thing. Also, for people who are who are not living with HIV, or people who are HIV negative, first of all, I hope you really know that you're HIV negative. That is by getting tested. Second of all, I hope you stay negative. Nowadays, we have a whole range of protective and preventive HIV measures that you can use in order not to get HIV. You can use condoms correctly and consistently. You can use the PrEP medication. Then please, people tend to confuse PrEP and PEP. PEP is taken after the exposure to prevent HIV, but the one that is used specifically for preventing every other time is PrEP. So you take PrEP 7 days before the exposure and take it for as long as you're exposed to HIV. And these are things that work. Some people don't really believe in how effective they are, but they are effective. We also have treatment as prevention, which is now what we call undetectable viral load equals to untransmittable. So when this works when a person living with HIV takes the medication well, then they reach a point called undetectable, whereby the virus level in the body is less than 1,000 copies, or for some people it's 0. So when you reach that point, you're able to get HIV negative children. You cannot transmit the virus to your partner, and that is what we call treatment, which is now the ARVs, as prevention. So like HIV in 2020 is not the HIV we had in the 90s. It's a whole advanced, yes, there is no cure yet, but the research, the advancements that have been made are way bigger, and for that reason, you can't afford to give up. Like right now, we have worse health conditions than HIV, so don't let HIV define you. It's a small thing. So if you're HIV positive, stay positive, accept yourself, adhere to your ARVs, and become undetectable. If you're HIV negative, stay negative, because you know, for a person who's living with HIV, they might not become positive, but for you who is HIV negative, there is a huge chance of you becoming HIV positive. So that is it.